Good evening, everybody. Packed house inside the pigskin. Lucky 7 is the number that we have, and we have an awful lot of topics to keep this crew busy. All right. Glad everybody here. We got Smoking Jeremy. We got Candy. We got Marvin. We got Ben. We got
Ben
Tommy,
with the
and we
gun
have
show.
Mel.
Ben's got the gun show going on. Yeah.
Yeah. It just, we had a great edition of Inside the Pigskin on Saturday. Mel and Marvin were their usual dynamic duo. Candy and I just watched them go at it, and we did get a few words in there. So if you're looking for another edition of Inside the Pigskin, we have a good one Saturday, but we're gonna have a great one tonight. All right, let's get to the topics, and there are plenty of them. Candy Ebling will be on another appearance on another network later in the show, but she'll only be gone 10 or 15 minutes and then back. So let's talk about the longest playoff win droughts in the National Football League. It starts with the Miami Dolphins, been hard to believe, year 2000, the Raiders in 2002, that figures to go on longer. The Bears in 2010, the Jets 2010. Guess what? They missed again. That number is going to be up to 15. The Arizona Cardinals in 2015, the Carolina Panthers 2015 as well, the Denver Broncos 2016. I'm talking about with a win, by the way. Okay. And then when you talk about the actual odds of them getting them, I know there's a lot of numbers put out there. Denver's minus 120, Pittsburgh is plus 145, Chicago plus 550, the Jets plus 750. Well, who knows what those odds are now. And then Arizona and Las Vegas are at plus 320, and of course, Carolina Panthers at plus 900, and Miami is plus 600. But anyways, those are a lot of numbers to point out to everybody. So I'm going to start with you, Jeremy. Of all these teams here, which one stands the best chance of breaking that drought?
Probably Denver Broncos or the Carolina Panthers with the way the Bucs are playing lately. Because if the Bucs keep floundering, they're going to win the division.
Okay. Candy?
I'd say the Denver Broncos, although I hope they don't have success this weekend. But they're doing really well, so I really think they have the best chance.
What about you, Marvin?
Man, Broncos got a young gun at quarterback. They got the real deal as a head coach. They got players on D. They're the real deal. They rolling.
Ben?
Yeah, I agree. I think the team that nobody wants to talk about it because they're not the Kansas City Chiefs or the Denver Broncos. I know the Chargers just beat up. Well, I know they just won last night against the Eagles, but the class of the AFC West is not Kansas City. It is the Broncos. I think they're going to get over that playoff drought.
They're looking awfully good with, obviously, Sean Payton and Bo Nix for sure. Tommy?
It's the Bears drought.
The Bears?
They were there in 2018, right?
Not recently? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It hasn't been that long since they've been there. I don't know if they got a win. I just know that's the last time they were there. And 2018 also was the last year that the Falcons were in the playoffs. And we know they ain't making it.
No, you're right, Jeremy. They're
struggling like they are. The Raiders represented everything that was evil about sports when Al Davis was having a success. The Panthers and Broncos, the Panthers are pretty inconsistent, so yeah, I'll go with the Broncos.
Okay. Mel?
I'm going to take the Broncos for 500, Alex.
It's safe to say this topic's easy. I got to go with the Broncos, too. As I mentioned, Sean Payton, Bo Nix, that's a pretty good duo that you have. It really, really is. Great stuff. But, again, we're talking about playoff win droughts. We're not talking about playoff droughts. Because the New York Jets, well, forget it. They're going to wait a little while. All right, let's continue on. Marvin ought to be familiar with this one here. And if anybody knows about father and son, it's him. But we're going to talk about notable fathers, sons of the NFL. We'll begin with the Mannings. You have Peyton, Archie, and Eli. You have the McCaffreys. You have Christian, Ed, and Luke. The Bosa's, Joey, John, and Nick. Surtain, Patrick II, and Patrick Sr. The Longs have Chris, Howie, and Kyle. The Matthews have Clay III, Clay Jr., and then Casey. And then Harrisons have Marvin Jr. and then Marvin Sr. Samuels have Asante Jr. and then Asante. And then last but not least, you have the Jordans, Cam, and Steve. All right, Jeremy, which one of these father and son? Sorry, Marvin, we don't have Marvin Paul III and Marvin Paul Sr. on here.
Oh, good,
but
man.
they don't have them on there, but at least you can speak for yours, and then you can talk about one of the best ones. Go ahead, Jeremy.
You did miss one, though. Antoine Winfield Sr. and Jr. as well.
Okay. All right,
but,
we'll probably miss a bunch of them, but that's what I had here.
But the best one has to be the Mannings. You know, if you go with success and what they've done, both, you know, the kids did way better than the father. I can say that.
Well, sure. I mean, the kids have won Super Bowls. That validates
Exactly.
your point. Exactly. All right. Great mind think alike, Jeremy. Great stuff. Okay. Katie?
You know, I'm actually kind of surprised by how many father-son duels there are, but I guess I shouldn't be, because let's face it, a lot of sons look up to their dad and want to be like their dad and do what their dad did, especially when you get to play a game. Let's face it. Obviously, probably the most notable of the current generation would be the Mannings, obviously. But yeah, I would, you know, Howie Long too, and his son Kyle played in the NFL. So
Right.
let's put out, just to add the, you know, and talk about a different one than the Mannings. They made multiple Pro Bowls and stuff like that. And his other son, Chris Long, also played in the NFL. So he had, you know, two sons as well play.
So if you can give me all that, but I'm asking you, of that group, which one stands out?
I said Mannings did, but I was going to talk about a different one. But Mannings are the ones that stand out the most.
Okay, Marvin?
Yeah, Scott, I'm assuming the reason you didn't mention Male was because you didn't want to mention them Bruins. But anyway, listen, without question, man, you know, when I was a kid, my dad was the man. And, you know, I love football. And, you know, like a lot of kids who have the chance to grow up with their father, I looked up to him tremendously. And, you know, whatever dad did, I want to do without question, just because he did it at a high level and he was really respected. And, you know, I respected him so much. So it definitely meant a lot, you know, being on that active roster for the first time, being on that 53, being in the game. It meant a lot that my first game was in Giant Stadium where he played all his games, Saints versus Giants. Anyway, yeah, no doubt about it. You have to talk about the Mannings. I mean, Archie Manning, you know, played on a losing team, had a losing record, but was still considered to be elite and one of the best, you know, of his day. You know, he was back then, he was every quarterback's favorite quarterback coming up, you know. And then you look at his sons, both of his sons, world champions, Peyton, a Hall of Famer, or soon to be. They're going to probably put Eli in too. But, you know, with all that, it's definitely the Manning franchise.
Ben?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the easy answer is the Mannings, but I mean, you know, I want to mention two guys that's on here, even though and both of their sons are currently playing. We'll see how it ends up. I'm gonna go with Jake Matthews and Bruce Matthews. There is not an offensive line. Bruce Matthews won. I mean, I think he was a Pro Bowler at every position on the offensive line. His son has been starting every game since 2014. Now, he's not going to have the Matthews lineage in the National Football League is deep. I mean, they got, you know, Clay Matthews Jr., but I like Jake Matthews and another two guys that I think, and we'll see how it ends up. Joey Porter Sr., Joey Porter Jr. I mean, both get to play for the same team. That's special. And I know that Joey Porter Jr., they just acknowledged his dad, Joey Porter Sr., you know, he got to see his dad come out. And I mean, look, Mel, you know, Marvin, to be able to follow in your dad's footsteps, like, I mean, it does not get better than that. But a third, if I could, even though they have the same career, Walter Payton and Jared Payton. I played with Jared Payton with the Tennessee Titans, and to hear them stories about, you know, I called them Walter's boy. So Walter Payton and Jared Payton, you know, because the Mannings are obviously the easy one on this list, obviously.
Well, let me tell you, I had an opportunity to interview Jared Payton when he was the Miami Hurricanes. He's a great kid. He really is. And Walter Payton has a Man of the Year award named after him. So I'm actually glad, Ben, what you did, in this particular scenario is you decided to go think outside the box and come up with these other three. More power to you, Ben. Cheers, my brother. That was great. But when you bring up the Peyton, Jared Payton's a good kid. Walter Payton, we all know what he did. So great stuff, Ben. Okay, Tommy.
Well, I'll mention Mel Farr because he was one of my favorite players on the Lions growing up as a kid. Not so pleased with Mel Jr. for not going to Michigan State. But the name I'm going to bring up is the McCaffreys. Ed McCaffrey played on those Broncos Super Bowl teams.
Right.
Then his son, Christian McCaffrey, of course, is a great player with the 49ers. I was familiar with the family because Max McCaffrey was a very good receiver at Duke. And the other end of that story is Christian McCaffrey's mom was Lisa Syme, a great soccer player. But on top of that, his grandfather was Dave Syme, who ran track and played baseball at Duke and was even the silver medalist in the 100 meters at the the Rome Olympics in 1960. And then Dave Syme later was a world famous ophthalmologist living in Miami. And when the great Jim Murray, the sports writer at the Los Angeles Times, suffered a detached retina at the Super Bowl, it was Dave Syme who did the emergency surgery. And then if you ever read the column by Murray, it was a hilarious and touching column about how he lost one of his best friends that had been with him his whole life. And then he mentioned his eye.
I like the fact that you brought up the McCaffreys. Let's not kid yourself. They're probably the most underrated father-son tandem on this list, only because everybody's talking about the Mannings. I'll give you my 2 cents on them after Mel gives us his opinion right now.
So, Tom,
yeah, Max hadn't have played at Duke, they might not have come to mind, but I got to I know the mom and dad a little bit.
So Tom, you're a historian. So who are the first set of brothers to play in the NFL? The first set of brothers were.
Good question. Tell me.
It's the Farrs. We're actually the first set of brothers to play in the NFL. My dad and his brother played, and me and my brother played. Sorry, Marvin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Look it up.
Now, is that since the merger, since 1970, or are we talking about pro football?
That's since the beginning of time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the beginning of time.
I know when I got to fact check these people.
Go ahead, fact check that. Fact check that, and get back to us next week. Now, as much as I hate to say it, because these are SC guys, but I have a lot of respect for the Matthews family, Clay Matthews, Bruce Matthews. Their sons. The way that Clay came up as a walk-on at USC and the things that he was able to accomplish in the league. I have a lot of respect for them. Obviously, the Mannings. That's everybody's choice. Everybody knows how great of a football player Archie Manning was and what a beating he took when he was playing with the Saints, and the rules were a lot different. I mean, I saw somebody pick him up and throw him on his head after he threw a pass. I mean, the guy, he got brutalized in New Orleans, and then for his sons to be the great players that they became. The one thing about football, and I never wanted my son to play football. If he chose not to play, I told him, I said, look, if you want to play, great, I'll support you. If you don't, that's fine too. You want to hurt my feelings at all? Because really, I don't want you to play because it's a tough way to make a living. I don't want to have to worry about you while I'm sitting up there in the stands. I don't know how my mom went through that, because it's a difficult way to make a living. And what makes it so special for these guys to excel, the second generation to excel, is because a lot of their parents were very successful. And there's other ways, there's better ways and easier ways to make a living than playing professional football. And for them to want to go out there and play professional football and play at the level in which they played it at is impressive to me, because, it's different from a guy who came from nothing versus somebody who came from something. Right. Your will, what you're willing to put yourself through, and your will to punish your body that way, might be a little bit different, because you're like, what, I really don't have to do this, where the other guy, he came from a house, man, with an outhouse, no electricity and no running water. And he would do whatever it is that he has to do to make sure he never goes back to that. You had air conditioning when you grew up. You had multiple bathrooms. you came out pooping golden BBs. You don't have to play. It's not something that you have to do.
Right.
It's something that you choose to do. So when these guys go out there and I look at them all the time, I say, man, why would you want your kid to play football? Basketball, that's one thing. That could be a family business. But football or baseball, that could be a family business. But football, it's a tough way to make a living, right up there with boxing.
All right, so you're going with the Mannings too, then?
No, the Matthews. No, I'm going with the Matthews.
Okay, so
everybody, the Mannings. That's the easy one. I'm going with the Matthews. Even though
you know what?
Here's what I'm going to say about went to SC.
Here's what I'm going to say about the Mannings. Okay, you're right. They're the easy choice of this group. But think about it. What the Mannings did was they pulled, or at least Archie did, a John Elway on the San Diego Chargers. Eli, all he did was wear a cap of the Chargers, and then in a matter of minutes, swapped it to go back to the Giants and got a New York cap. How did that work out? Pretty well, because Phillip Rivers, who we'll talk about later in the show, ends up having a good career with the Chargers, and obviously Eli Manning is responsible for a pair of Super Bowls with the Giants. So, yeah, I think that the reason I brought this up is I felt it was an opportunity for everybody on this panel to go out there and think, because it just shows you that we talk about baseball being the ultimate family sport, hockey, and even basketball, but football, when you look at the tradition of what it is, I mean, heck, Tommy, I'll take a page out of your book before we go on to our next topic. Even at Michigan State, how you have all the Bulls playing for Michigan State, all 9 million of them, and the Grammaticals playing wherever. But I don't want to get off too much topic. We have a lot. I'm going with the Mannings. If for no other reason, that Archie got killed, Eli got a Super Bowl, and two, and Hayden.
That's great. But playing quarterback versus being in the trenches is two different things.
Well, I agree. But the way one of them orchestrated his way out to San Diego. I mean, San Diego's a beautiful area, but evidently they don't think much of the Chargers. But you're right. The trenches, I'm not downplaying the significance of the trenches, because you're right. And if I'm going to do that, I'm also just put the Bozes into the category, because they're a good story as well, and the Longs. So there are a lot of great father and sons on this list. That's why I wanted to find out where everybody stood on this, and every one of y'all did a really good job, because I'm glad that the opinions were all over the map, and that's what I was targeting when I inserted this topic into it. All right, something a little bit more simpler, since I've gone out there and hit you guys with and gal with some tougher ones here. We're going to talk about Vance Joseph has actually held Patrick Mahomes to 14.7 points per game since actually becoming the coordinator for the Broncos in 2023. But the bigger picture of this whole thing is this. Do you feel that Vance Joseph is ready to become a head coach again? We'll start off with you, Jeremy.
Vance Joseph was a head coach at one time.
Right. So he'll get a second opportunity.
It'll be a second opportunity. And does he deserve one? Absolutely. Will it be any good is another story, because we've seen this before.
Right.
People that are great coordinators don't always make great head coaches. And it seems like the offensive coordinators have the easier road to becoming a great coach over the defensive ones. I don't know why, and I'm not saying one's smarter than the other, but if you look at the successes, offensive coordinators have made better head coaches than defensive coordinators.
Okay, Candy?
I think he can. I think it completely depends on the situation, the players you've been dealt, the situation that you walk into. Like some of these coaches, these head coaches, like let's take, for instance, these first-year coaches this year. The Jets, dumpster fire. You walked into the worst team you could possibly walk into. Ben Johnson, the Bears, he walked into a really good system, and he's made it better. So I think it depends on if you're a defensive coach, are you going into a system where your offense is already established and is already hitting on the cylinders? Because then it's an easier transition for you. And the other thing is what supporting cast do you bring with you to see who you have that can help you in the areas that you are maybe a little bit weaker. If you're a defensive, you might not be as strong on the offense. So who are you bringing in as your offensive coordinator, and who can you bring in? I think that matters as well. So yes, I think he can be right situation. It would work.
Yeah, you're right, Candy. You talk about Aaron Glenn and the New York Jets. That's a bad situation. Of course, Glenn didn't help matters any with his rotten attitude toward Aaron Rodgers. Only he settled for Justin Fields. That's another. That's his fault there. I put that one on him. But Aaron Glenn, the New York Jets, Justin Fields. That's awful. All right, Marvin.
Yeah, I think Vance got a raw deal in his first stint as a head coach. I think he was with the Cardinals, I believe, and he was there for 1 year. And the reality is, the reason he got the job is because the organization was bad. So you give him 1 year, and that's it. I mean, what about developing a young quarterback? Obviously they have a guy, but what about building around that guy and really trying to see what they can do long term? These NFL jobs, I mean, it's a process unless you have the right guy. I think what we're seeing in Denver, in going from Russell to Bo and how they were able to, you saw a different team. That speaks to great coaching. You know what I'm saying? But even Sean Payton has experience. The position as a head coach requires experience, and sometimes some of that experience is some failure. You know what I'm saying? Or horrible situations like he had in his first stint. So I think he only builds from all these experiences. I think all these experiences ultimately help to make him an even better head coach this time around than last time, even though he got holes the first time. So, he deserves another chance, and I'm sure he'll do well if he's with the right organization. Because again, I don't think all these quarterbacks are bums. I think these organizations are trash, and they don't do enough to develop, the quarterback, and then from there also invest in that head coach and allow them to be successful. So, yeah, give him another shot. He deserves it.
Ben?
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing about Van Joseph is it's gonna be two things: the front office and who his quarterback is gonna be. I mean, you look at all these coaches that's having success; they all got one thing in common: they got a good quarterback that they can work with. It doesn't matter what you have around those guys. It doesn't matter what you got a receiver or DB. If the quarterback isn't good, the team is not going to be good. So when it comes to Van Joseph, even though he's a defensive-minded guy, he's going to learn from the first time around and say, look, I got to have a quarterback. It doesn't matter if I'm a defensive-minded guy. I got to have a quarterback that I can trust, and he can go out there and get it done. I mean, it's slim pickings, though. I mean, because you talk about the Titans. I mean, you talking about the Giants, maybe the Falcons. So I think for a guy like Van Joseph, I just hope that he's given patience and leeway. Every coach in the National Football League is not good, but they're giving patience. You give him patience. You give him a chance to go out there because you don't know what you have in 1 year. I don't care what you're doing. You don't know what you have. But good season or bad season, they give him some patience. They give him a front office that's going to help, and a GM is going to help put some players, and he get a quarterback, he got a shot to make some noise early.
Well, amazing how you say that, because even though he's not part of the topic, I'm going to mention that he is. There's a guy that deserves another chance. Steve Wilkes would be at the top of my list for sure. He definitely got hosed as well. Tommy?
Well, he's only 53, so he's got in a good position to become a head coach again. What I find interesting about it is, in the NFL, if you're on a winning team and you're a coordinator, you're a prime candidate for a job. So he checks those boxes. But what I find interesting is, Aaron Glenn went from defensive coordinator to head coach last year. Joseph might make that jump again. But I remember when I was researching Ray Light and wrote about how Jimmy Ray never got a chance to be a head coach. Jimmy Ray was only the second black coordinator in NFL history when the Rams, the great John Robinson, Marvin, hired him in 1983. And he never got a chance to be a head coach. And I remember when I was writing the book and doing the research, the excuse around the NFL was they were only hiring offensive coordinators as head coach.
Right.
So now I guess that doesn't really matter anymore. But you see defensive coordinators, black coaches getting jobs as a head coach. So I guess that's a sign of progress. But it's still a sad story that Jimmy Ray never got a chance.
Jimmy Ray from my dad's hometown, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
That's right. I looked up your dad after we met and saw he was born in Fort Bragg. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad speaks highly of Jimmy Ray as like mentor legend type guy.
He was awarded in the inaugural class to Pro Football Hall of Fame 2022 NFL Awards of Excellence, honoring.
I thought Jimmy was from High Point.
What's Jimmy Ray?
I thought he's from High Point,
North Carolina.
E. Smith in Fayetteville, same high school.
E. Smith Golden Bulls. Get it right, Tommy.
Both Bulls, yeah.
I know Jimmy from his time in Detroit, and we went to school with his daughter, both of his daughters. We were at Brother Rice. They were over at Marion, so we know that family very well.
She lives down in Houston now.
By the way, we appreciate all the comments in the chat room from everybody that participated. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to our South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, please do so. We encourage all the people that can talk intelligently about this sport. And we also have two Inside the Pistons, as well as other great programming like Fire Up that covers football, and we're all over the map. So for all you that are joining us for the first time, please hit that red subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. All right, Mel, you have the last word on
Let me go back. I know Jimmy from when he's in Detroit. We know his son now, Jimmy Ray Jr. And he was a good front office man. He was in the front office, and he had, he got passed over for the coach general manager position. I don't know what Jimmy Ray Jr. is doing now, but I'm sorry, I was getting him confused with Melvin Phillips. But yeah, you're right.
He got passed over first by the Chargers.
Right, he got passed over first by the Chargers
with the Cleveland Browns.
Right. And so, yeah, Jimmy Ray, he was just ahead of his time. There hadn't been one yet at the time when Jimmy Ray came around. There hadn't been one, a black head coach at that particular time. I'm sorry, I digress. What was the question again? I forgot.
That's okay. Vance Sosa.
Vance. Yeah, he deserves to have another opportunity without question. I mean, they recycle them other coaches, so why shouldn't they give him a shot? I mean, he can't be any worse than Josh McDaniel, and he's gotten two shots at it, 2 bites at the apple. So yeah, he should get a shot. I'm never going to sit here and say that an individual of color shouldn't get another opportunity. And I don't think he got a fair shake with the first time around. I really don't believe it. You got to give these guys some time. You got to have some patience. I don't know what his quarterback situation was at that time, but I don't think they've had a quarterback since Peyton Manning left out of there. So, if you don't have a quarterback, like Ben said, you're going to struggle. If you do have one, you're going to have a chance. And I disagree with what you're saying, what Jeremy said about offensive coaches versus defensive coaches. You got to have a quarterback. You got to have a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't really matter who you have, who's coaching. I mean, Newt Rockney can come back, Vince Lombardi can come back, whoever can come back. If you don't have somebody at that position that can play it competently, it's going to be very difficult for you to succeed in the league.
Okay. All right, let's turn our attention to college football. We talked a lot about Diego Pavia last week, but we're going to talk about him again. We actually argued with Bama fans and got in an altercation with a Bama fan as he was walking up the field. Bama fans were letting him know it. Candy will tell us what the score of that thing. But this guy's actually a Heisman Trophy finalist. So we'll take all that stuff into consideration about him arguing with Bama fans because he's a fire guy. But anyways, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about Diego Pavia? And what are your thoughts? Do you think he has a chance to win the Heisman Trophy?
I don't think he has the chance. Everybody that's on the list has a chance, but I still don't think he's winning it. I think it's Mendoza. Is that his name at Indiana? I think he's the one that's going to end up winning it. But this is just more proof about how much hatred there is between the fan bases of these two teams, between Vanderbilt and Alabama. If he wouldn't have ran his mouth and talked a little crap before the game, the Bama fan probably wouldn't have yelled at him to begin with after. And, when you have that type of hatred for each other, it's going to happen. You're going to see it happen more because people can't seem to handle anybody's opinion anymore.
Great point, Jeremy. Candy?
Yeah, I agree that, there's so much emotion that's built into these rivalries that sometimes you just say things that you really shouldn't say. Do I fault him? I mean, you're caught up in the emotions of the game and playing and all that. It's a big rivalry for them. Obviously, it's a big game to be playing in. But should he have done it? No. But hey, it just means that he cares. And that's the other thing that we have to remember. But don't lose respect when you're doing that. That's the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway is I think we've lost a lot of respect. You can have emotion, you can have feelings, but you don't lose respect.
Yeah, I'll say this for Marvin. I think the Bama fans baited him a little bit after Vanderbilt won last year. So there was obviously a lot of intensity leading into the game, and he has to make sure he keeps his emotions in check. That's for sure. But as far as his chance of winning Heisman Trophy on Saturday, no. All right, Marvin.
Yeah, so I heard about this. I didn't hear what he said, or I don't really have tremendous context. But big picture, what I'll say is this: it's a young kid being emotional. That's right. It. Bottom line is, it's a young kid being emotional. Being specific to him being the quarterback at Vanderbilt, if he has any desire to play in the National Football League and make money in this game outside of NIL, he's going to learn. He needs to learn emotional intelligence. Have a better understanding of leadership, and just understand that this is what it is, man. You're a target. You're a fish in the fishbowl. People look at you, they gawk at you, they say what they want to you. It's not right, but you can't respond to every fool out there because you got a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? So that's part of his process. This is a good thing for him because he'll learn from this. He'll absolutely. This is a tremendous learning moment for him, and other coaches would use it as an example as well. He has no shot to win the Heisman Trophy. That thing's going to Fernando Mendoza.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think what Diego did, he enjoyed his moment in college. I mean, when's the last time we talked about Vanderbilt football like this? I mean, the last time we talked to him about that, I mean, James Franklin was the head coach, so he's just living in the moment. And if you've ever had to deal with Alabama fans, he is saying what a lot of people want to say. Alabama fans are rough to deal with. And let me say something that was said. Alabama football and Vanderbilt, that is not a rivalry at all. Now, they beat them 2 years ago. They don't beat them often. That, like I said, that goalpost is still making its way around America. It has not made it back to Nashville yet. But I can appreciate what Diego is doing because he understands, man, this might be the best moment in football I might get. I mean, I know he's going to New York for the Heisman Trophy finalists. I mean, he's one of the Heisman Trophy finalists, but we're talking about Diego Pavia being a Heisman Trophy finalist. Jay Cutler wasn't a Heisman Trophy finalist when he was at Vanderbilt. So I think what he did for Vanderbilt football is incredible. I mean, when people talk about the team that didn't get in, I mean, Vanderbilt went 10-2. They won 10 games, they didn't get in. This might be the best team they ever have, and you left them out. So I can appreciate what Diego meant, not just to Vanderbilt, but college football, SEC football. He's enjoying his moment, but he's going to get a marketing team. He's going to get a PR team, and they're going to let him know, hey, man, the people with the most get to say the least. That's why short people can talk about tall people, right? That's how it goes. That's how it goes, and it's not fair, but as my grandfather would say, fair is a place where they judge pigs. You are a student athlete and you get to go to New York. You'll be all right, young man. You put Vanderbilt on the map, and I guarantee you that they were the best. They were the best college football team in the state of Tennessee. They were better than the Vols, and that's saying something because the Vols run the state. So shout out to Diego. He's not going to win the Heisman, but sometimes being a finalist is enough, man. Because to be considered one of the best players in college football, that's a very, very unique place to be.
Great stuff, man. Okay, Tommy.
If it was anybody but Alabama fans that he got in a spat with, I'd be more critical of him. But does this guy know where he came from? He played junior college football in New Mexico. He played at New Mexico State. And then if it wasn't for Clark Lee bringing Jerry Kill with him to Vanderbilt, he doesn't make it to Vanderbilt and fall into the perfect situation for himself and have this great career. And so he's going to pop off like some entitled athlete who was born on third base. Who does he think he is? Tommy Castellanos? I don't like the story at all. And as far as the Heisman, I've been mostly leaning toward Fernando Mendoza, but boy, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, maybe he's the guy that should win it.
Okay. Mel?
Yeah, I didn't hear the quote what he said, but like Ben said, I mean that's not a rivalry. I mean, they got a chance to talk because they won 2 years ago. That's great. But I mean, what's going to happen? And look at the years prior and look in the years to come. What's going to happen once he leaves? Because he's a big part of that program as far as turning it around. They got the right guy to run that system, and they've been successful because of his ability to play that position. So we'll see what it looks like after that. Do I think he has a chance? Yeah, he has a chance. I mean, he's getting invited. He's getting invited to the to New York, so I believe he does have a chance to win the Heisman Trophy. Will he win it? Probably not. I mean, there's really no front runner. I mean, so if his name gets called, will I be surprised? No, not really. But I think it's become a quarterback position. I mean, a quarterback trophy. And so you see, other than the running back Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, all the other guys are quarterbacks that are going there. So it's probably going to go to the quarterback. He may finish second, he may finish third, but I mean that's a heck of an accomplishment from where he came from where he began. That's a great accomplishment for him.
Okay. All right. Now, Candy steps away for 15 minutes. No problem. We'll go on to our next topic, and that's this. We talked about it on the Saturday edition of Inside the Prison. We'll mention it again because obviously there's been a development in the story. But the first time in 112 years, Georgia Tech and UGA, Georgia, did not play on campus. So for a few of the panelists that are hearing this for the first time, here's what we end up having. They played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is a shame because Georgia Tech actually got $10 million and will generate five times the amount of revenue than it would have at Bobby Dodd Stadium. So it's a shame that they didn't do it in 112 years. I certainly understand the financial ramifications for it. The game is actually will return to the campus next year. We'll return to the campus next year. So when you talk about this, Tommy, I know you haven't heard of. What are your thoughts about the fact that the Georgia Tech game against Georgia was played in a neutral field?
No, I understand it. I don't have a problem with it. Georgia Tech could probably use the money, and that's part of college sports now. I don't. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think of Georgia Tech's home stadium as this grand place. I don't see any problem moving to downtown, to the biggest stadium in Atlanta and a new stadium. I don't see any. I'm not bothered by it.
What about you, Jeremy?
You're talking about okay. Who else plays in another professional stadium as their home stadium? That's the biggest thing. There's not many, right?
Right.
So they need their own stadium because I bet it's really hard for them to fill that professional stadium that has more seats than most average college stadiums.
Yeah, but in that situation, Georgia went ahead and brought a lot of fans. That was a pretty good turnout. $10 million in the pocket of the Yellow Jackets. And there's a second part of the question, and I'll get to in a moment. Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Georgia Tech appreciated it. I mean, anytime Georgia get to go to the Mercedes-Benz Dome, it's like they second home. So they'll appreciate it. And the thing about Georgia and Georgia Tech is obsessed with Georgia. It's not the same way with Georgia versus Georgia Tech, but I mean, the thing about it, obviously, Georgia Tech is right. It's in like in the center of downtown. So if they were looking to try to do anything with Bobby Dodd, it's going to be hard to do it. And Georgia fan base is right. They crazy fans. Georgia Tech has fans. It ain't the same way though. It's not the same. I mean, when you got Coca-Cola right there, you got one of the number one engineering schools in the country right there. They got a lot more going on in downtown Atlanta than they do in Athens. But yeah, it's just for 1 year. I think Georgia Tech football got to want it more. Because if it was supposed to be a home game for Georgia and they said we're gonna play it in the Dome, Georgia would have said no. They would have made Georgia Tech come to Athens. No, you're gonna come over there with us. So yeah, it's just a difference. It's just, even though Georgia Tech had a better year this year, it's just a difference in the superpowers. Georgia is a superpower. And if they say they want to go to Atlanta and to the Dome, they'll go to the Dome. If Georgia Tech, I don't think they have that type of bargaining power, but it's only 1 year. And, it's going to have more games like 2024 Georgia Tech and less 2025 Georgia Tech. But it's just 1 year. And, I know the one person who appreciates it, and that is Arthur Blank. The owner of the Falcons, the owner, he loves it. Anytime Georgia's going to be there, he'll take it every time for the viewership.
Great points. I'll tell you, and it doesn't hurt that Georgia Tech getting $10 million. All right, Marvel, we talked about it before, but what are your thoughts again for this audience?
Listen, this is business, man. This is what it's about. It's about making money. These schools are trying to make money. These athletic departments are trying to make money. They need to raise money for NIL and all the things that are part of this new era in sports. It's a win-win. At the end of the day, I'm certain that Kirby Smart and them Georgia Bulldogs were more than happy to play in that dome. Obviously, they have a huge fan base out here. And for Georgia Tech, they're still in Atlanta playing the game, and they get $10 million. So, I think if anything, it's a good fan experience. You may have some hardcore Tech alums who want to play in their home stadium, but this is big business, man. Money dictates it, and that's the bottom line.
Mel?
Yeah, I think it was a disadvantage for Georgia Tech. It's a money grab. I know that. Marvin said that. It's a money grab. It was all about the money. But, when you play at your home stadium, you control the number of seats that the visiting team gets. At the Mercedes-Benz, that's a home away from home for Georgia. And so they lose that home field advantage. Even though it's right down the street from Georgia Tech, it's a stone's throw from Georgia Tech, Mercedes-Benz, they lost the home field advantage there. So I think for them, for Georgia Tech, that was a disadvantage. They just wanted to grab the money. I can't blame them for that, but they did lose the home field advantage by playing down there at the Benz. Now, Georgia Tech, they started off hot, then they kind of fizzled out down the stretch. That game was looked at to being a bigger game than what it was, but Georgia Tech kind of fizzled out down the stretch.
Yeah, well, the amazing part of this whole story is the revenue is 5 times the amount of money. I mean, 5 times.
The ticket prices were ridiculous over there.
Yeah, I know. It really is. Then it would have been over at Bobby Dodd. And everybody's talked about, so now I'm going to continue talking about it. But you guys are right, okay? This is Georgia's home away from home, and I'll tell you why. Because obviously the Bulldogs beat Tech 16-9, and then a week later they win the SEC title game, blowing out Alabama 28-7. And for Alabama, meanwhile, it's their 16th appearance in an SEC championship game. So everything you guys have said is right. Alabama's, get that, 16th appearance for Alabama in the SEC championship game, although it didn't do them any good in this game against Georgia. So, all right, Jeremy, now you see the other half of it. I know you're from the Midwest, so now you'll have a little bit more time to look back on this whole thing. But what do you think about the fact that Atlanta is Georgia's home away from home? Because obviously they play well when they're there.
They do. And it is a bit, it's a professional stadium in their home state.
Right.
So when they play there, it is like a second home game, and more fans can go from outside of the community where they're at. That's what I was getting at. It's like a home away from home because more people are able to go there. But at the same time, a team like Georgia Tech doesn't get the chance to have that many fans show up because not a lot of them can afford it. It's a catch-22. I mean, with the NIL and the way these kids are getting played, maybe the kids are buying their parents and family tickets, but I doubt they're buying the whole school's alumni ticket.
Georgia Tech ain't got no problem with no money. That ain't an issue for them.
Well,
it's not USC. They got good. They get a quality education over there.
I didn't say they didn't. No. I was not talking about the education. I was talking about the fans being able to pay for it. Is what I was talking about.
All right. Well, now I'll let you continue on. Okay, you mentioned this before. I'll let you reiterate. Okay, Mel, that's this. Georgia's home away from home. They won 2 in a row and back-to-back weeks against Georgia Tech in that building, as well as obviously the SEC championship game. Go ahead, pick it up from there, Mel.
Yeah, I mean, my brother and I were looking at going to that game, but I didn't want to have anything to do with the Benz. I wanted to go to Bobby Dodd to experience that stadium. I wanted to experience Bobby Dodd Stadium. So I had nothing. I didn't want to have anything to do with going down there. But yeah, they lose their advantage of that home field advantage. Well, you control the number of tickets that the visiting team gets. You control where they sit. They're going to be up there in the corner somewhere in the nosebleeds, however that stadium is situated. They had no control over the seats. I think it was probably 50-50 is how they allotted the seats there. And Georgia it was probably more like 60-40, maybe 65-35. And so they had no control over that as far as the number of fans that Georgia was able to bring. And so they lost that home field advantage. That was a home game for them. And they normally play Georgia very, very tough. Like I said, they kind of fizzled out down the stretch. They came out, they shot out the cannon. They started out like they were shot out of a cannon, and then they just kind of fizzled out down the stretch. So the game wasn't as big of a game as it looked looked to be when they probably made that decision not to play at Bobby Dodd Stadium and play down there at the Georgia Dome, because they lost a couple games in a row, and then they just kind of limped across the finish line.
Well, what's good about the show is I have three people that live in the greater Atlanta area. Marvin, obviously, that Georgia's won 2 in a row there. We already talked about the financial implications, how it benefits, but what are your thoughts about the way Georgia handled those 2 weeks, winning 2 games, and obviously in the college football playoff?
Man, Georgia's a dog, man. I mean, they are what they are, man. This is what an elite program looks like, and I think Kirby and his GM. I don't know who the GM is, but I think Kirby and him are running a program and they are what you want to be in regards to everything. You know what I'm saying? They really are the standard since Saban has stepped down, since Saban left, and even when he was there toward the end. So no, I applaud Georgia and how they run their program in every way.
Ben?
Look, back in the day, growing up, I used to love the Big East tournament because they had to play the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden. That's the Mecca. That's what Atlanta is. Madison Square. Mercedes-Benz. That's the Mecca of college football. When you talk about I'm talking about football in the South. I'm not talking about all. So what Georgia knows is, man, every time we in the dome, we got to show up and show out. It doesn't matter who they play. Georgia usually open up the season in the dome. That's by design, not Georgia Tech, the team in Athens. So, yeah, Georgia knew that once Georgia Tech agreed to that, they were like, oh, we got them. Because what does Georgia Tech know about selling out Bobby Dodd, let alone getting more tickets at Mercedes-Benz? So I think when you think about Mercedes-Benz Dome and what it does for college football, I mean, it's worth, if you get a chance to play in there. I mean, it's the experience, and Georgia and Kirby Smart, they have a monopoly on that freaking dome. And I've sat down before with the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl people. They always talking about Georgia. They don't care who Georgia's playing. They just want Georgia to be there. It could be Georgia versus whomever. So at least for a team, think about that. You telling me a team like Georgia Tech that don't need no money got $10 million to get on a bus and go across the street? They gave them that much money? So, yeah, it's look, Arthur Blank is one of the most brilliant owners in the National Football League, because he knows who can I get to come to the dome. And he knows as long as I got Georgia and they playing the way they playing, they're going to get viewership, they're going to get merchandise, they're going to get concessions, they're going to get parking. Everything is going to be check. So no matter what, if Georgia's in the dome, that's good for business. No matter who they playing, Georgia Tech got to have the Georgia experience. And if Georgia Tech would have won, that check would have been bigger. They would have probably negotiated something, because I know Florida Georgia is always in Jacksonville every year. That's by design. But that's different, because Georgia and Florida, they decide it's split down the middle. Not one team get more tickets than the other. I don't think Georgia Tech is at the same caliber of Florida Georgia right now. But hey, man, the Mercedes-Benz Dome. I mean, outside of my Falcons, which it's hard to watch them. That is a beautiful stadium. They're in a bad seat in the house. Arthur Blank, he did it right, because and even though I do miss the old Georgia Dome, the old Georgia Dome wasn't old enough to get blown up, but that's the world we live in now, man. It's all about facilities and stadiums. So, yeah, shout out to them Georgia Bulldogs, man. They like Marvin said, they getting it done right now, man. They running that thing like a Fortune 500 company over there in Athens.
Yeah, they got 2 wins in a row, ban out of it. So it's not so not only did they made out like bandits at those 2 games, didn't they, Ben?
Oh yeah, look, I'm not. Let me just go ahead and say I am never pulling for Georgia in any stretch of the imagination, or Alabama. So I was, in my mind, I'm like, is there a way that both teams can lose? But you can't do that in college football. It's going to be. But anytime Alabama get the brakes beat off them, it's always a good day. But for everybody thought that Alabama wasn't going to be in the college football playoff, the only team in college football that the rules do not apply to them, it is not Notre Dame. It is Alabama. That's BCS. That's college football playoff. That's now. That brand name, it holds weight. So when people thought because they lost 28-7, they wasn't going to the college football playoff, I could have told y'all, you must haven't been watching lately. Because the Alabama,
I don't know why they play I don't know why they play the games. I mean, it doesn't affect your ranking or anything like that. Well, I mean, it's not supposed to affect your ranking, so I don't understand why Indiana is number 1 and Ohio State's number 2. and Alabama got the break speed off them, and they didn't move. I mean, they were still number 9 or whatever it was that where they were ranked prior. I don't understand that whole system. I mean, somebody's got to help me and explain that to me. I don't know how the number 24 team gets in the 12-team playoff. I thought it was supposed to be the best teams that are supposed to be in the playoffs, and I know that JMU is not better than Notre Dame. I know Tulane's not better than Notre Dame, so I don't understand that. I really don't. Somebody's got to help me.
Notre Dame, all Notre Dame got to do, Mel, is get on the phone, say, hey, ACC, I know we're contractually obligated to honor this contract with every other sport. I know we got touchdown Jesus. I know we got Rudy, but we thought that all we had was the regular season. Now, in the yesteryears, that tradition would have worked. There is no way Notre Dame had to watch all those teams get called and not them. You know how crazy that was? They sat in the room to see Selection Sunday at 12 o'clock and it didn't happen. So
I don't understand the group of 5 selection. I don't know how you can just jump up to number 19 or wherever Tulane was, and then 24 where JMU was, and all of a sudden they're in the 12-team playoff. I don't understand it. I mean, who wants to see Tulane and Mississippi again? I mean, they saw that earlier. They Mississippi won by 20 or whatever. Who wants to see that again? I don't understand that.
If you get to pick your own schedule, which Notre Dame does, and you can't win it, you did it to yourself. You get to pick them. You get to pick whoever you want to play, and you lost. What shifted the whole college football playoff was not Miami, was not Notre Dame. A 7-5 Duke won the ACC. And they ain't get in. So if the winner had 5 losses, which is crazy to me, they went 6-2 in conference. Miami got in, but they lost to Louisville and SMU. But they still got in because they beat Notre Dame.
That still wouldn't have got Notre Dame in. If Virginia would have won, that would not have got Notre Dame in. That would have just made it even more difficult for Notre Dame to get in.
Yeah. Well, my thing is this: when it comes to college football as a whole, I have this saying. If we're going to change the rules and make sure that these G5 schools get in, hey, when people say these G5 schools going to get blown out, a bunch of teams get blown out. That's in the P4. They get blown out.
And then you don't play, and Miami jumps 2 spots, and they didn't play. I don't understand that. You don't play.
Because it's all entertainment. Yeah.
Alabama played, got boat raced, and didn't move.
Right.
Indiana and Ohio State played, and Indiana becomes number 1, Ohio State becomes number 2. I don't understand it. I mean, if you're not gonna, if it doesn't matter, first of all, why play them? But if it doesn't matter, why do you change the ranking if it doesn't matter?
Because if you've been watching the college football playoff committee closely, but back in the day when Zach Wilson was at BYU, this is back during COVID time, right? They needed a team to play. They didn't have no team to play. They called Coastal Carolina up and said, hey, man, would y'all play us? They said, yeah. They flew to Conway and they lost, and they didn't move. They lost the Coastal Carolina, and they did not move in the ranking, which lets me know they ain't watching these games the way we do. You know what the college football playoff committee got? They don't have to tell nobody how they think, how they go about it.
They don't have a TV screen. They're in the room. Every one of them's got a TV screen in front of them. But what are they watching? SpongeBob?
Yes.
They ain't watching football. They ain't watching what we watching. They ain't watching what we watching.
But
I bet you
I have my own conspiracy theory, and the last 2 years that Alabama wasn't in the playoffs, who did they have to play?
Well, all right. Right. Okay. Let's maintain the track here.
Alabama's not better than Notre Dame.
I know. I'm not saying they are.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Tommy, you have the last word on this whole thing about the 2-game winning streak. Glad to have Candy back. Go ahead, Tommy.
Well, I think Georgia just kind of grew into that because the SEC game has always been in Georgia, in Atlanta, probably since Roy Kramer, who just passed away the other day, former Central Michigan head coach and Vanderbilt AD, SEC commissioner. It started in Atlanta, and so it's always been there. The other side of that history, though, is if you go back to the early 60s, the big city in the South was Birmingham.
Right.
The football capital of the world was Legion Field in Birmingham. But Birmingham is where they had so many racists, and they had Bull Connor as a police commissioner turning dogs and fire hoses on kids. Birmingham got a terrible reputation, and the Birmingham had the bigger airport back then too, but their city council didn't keep up with the times. Atlanta's airport expanded. Atlanta billed themselves as a city too busy to hate. And so everything's in Atlanta now. It could be in Birmingham, or they just had smarter people and they didn't have racists like Bull Connor and George Wallace and a football coach like Bear Bryant, whose campus was desegregated in 1963, and he waited till 1970 to sign a black player, even though he had the law of the land on his side.
So let me put it to you this way, and I know, Candy, one of the things we'll probably get out of this comment, since we both went out there and experienced it. Number one, okay, I went to the George Dome and loved the place. And obviously I agree with Ben. They tore that thing down too quick. I really, really enjoyed it. I interviewed Jerry Glanville. I was there for the first game when actually the Falcons took on the New York Jets, and Jerry Glanville was the coach. Now, Candy and I had an opportunity to see the Mercedes Dome for the first time when the Jacksonville Jaguars are there. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is a beautiful facility. It really is. I guess the only thing I'm a little annoyed about is this, and I know I may be getting off point a little bit. I mean, but how Mercedes-Benz Stadium can host a soccer team and Metro Detroit has a Ford Field, and they're not getting the opportunity to have an MLS team, goes beyond my wildest imagination, rather than having to commit to building a soccer stadium in downtown Detroit. That's my only objection there. But keeping it on track. And Candy took pictures. You were on the field, Candy, taking pictures, right? And I was up in the press box. That place is an absolute jewel. And thanks to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I was a part of the visiting media then. And I'll tell you, I'd look forward to the opportunity to go back in that facility. And I'll tell you, it was just a privilege to be able to cover them as a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars media. And now, obviously, Marvin and I, and potentially Jeremy, but at least Marvin and I are definitely working with the Jags again, right, Marvin? So
Absolutely.
You never know what's going to happen there. So with that said, we'll do one small topic and rapid fire, and then we'll have Candy do a station break, and that's this. A very simple topic to talk about. And we'll talk about Mark Cuban, the minority owner now of the Dallas Mavericks, who offered a piece of advice, his number one piece of advice for all young professionals: view the job as an education, get paid to learn. Okay, Jeremy, obviously I brought you from another network. What do you think of Mark Cuban's advice?
He's absolutely right. We need to get back to these kids going to trade schools, getting paid to learn, and learning a actual skill that they can take into the workplace. Because I'll tell you what, the college education system and how far people have to go to in debt if they don't have a scholarship or government help is redonkulous.
Candy?
Yeah, we need to get back to excelling at the job that you take, like excelling at that. Do that job and do it well. Do it to the best of your ability and then move up and move on.
Marvin?
Yeah, I think it's really a lesson in humility almost. I think what he's saying to these kids is, listen, you want to move up and you want to move on in the world. But with that said, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have great experiences, bad experiences, but they're all learning experiences. You know what I'm saying? And everything that happens to you, helps to create who you are going to become and who you are. So what he's saying is just take it in stride. You know what I'm saying? Pay attention and just have a certain level of awareness in the moments and take those experiences and just be a better professional moving forward and get paid to do that. Yeah. So I get that.
Ben?
Yeah, I agree. I think what Mark Cuban is also saying is the fact that nowadays people just want money so they don't have to be creative. The most resourceful people in the world are people who lack resources because it forces you to be creative because they learn. It's like you take a surgeon from back in the day that really had to know how to utilize his hands. He don't know about no Wi-Fi. He don't know about this technology. He's like, what do you mean? No, I got to be able to know get in there with my hands. These people now, everything is technology. Everything is back in the day when cell phones first came out, it was cell phones. Now they call smartphones because the phone is smarter than the person who bought it. Mark Cuban said you can't want to be at the top and you have no skill set. Just because I'm the most important person in the room doesn't mean I'm the smartest. Mark Cuban is saying I'm the best at what I do because I'm smart. I get paid to learn this stuff. That way, when technology, falters, and all you got is your knowledge. If there is nothing there, you are done. You are over with. So because I think Mark Cuban is around a lot of people, and he sees a lack of knowledge. He sees people being very lazy. We live in a viral world. You want to get rich quick overnight. You want to be known for something viral and not what you actually bring to the workforce. You don't bring anything. So yeah, I can appreciate him saying that. I know people can say, well, it's easy for him to say that, but it's not. I mean, Mark Cuban does a lot for a lot of people when you talk about how he sends his money out into the world. So I appreciate it come from him. And he seems to be a guy that understands that if Generation Z is going to be the future of this world, either we're going to be in trouble or we should look forward to it. But the way things going now, people are getting more lazy because they want to get paid more to do less, but they don't know anything. You got to know something. People pay you. What did Steve Smith Sr. say? He said, no, man, they pay you for your skill set. They pay you for your specialty. Well, you got to, in order to be a specialist, you got to have a specialty first. And hopefully these young people, know that learning is a beautiful skill to have. Because when all else fails, they're gonna pay the person who know what button to push. So yeah, I appreciate them saying that, and more people in his position need to be using their voice and platform to be able to speak to the upcoming generation, because internships, externships, most of these people now, they don't even know what it is, let alone want to do it. So I appreciate his words.
Tommy?
Yeah, what I would add to that is find a mentor in your first job. I know that's my biggest regret in my career, is I had a chance to graduate from Michigan State, of course, and my uncle was a retired colonel in the San Diego area, and I came out, we went to the Rose Bowl, and he told me I could stay at his place while I looked for a job. And so, go live in San Diego? Yeah, I'm going to try that, or somewhere in California. And I found a job in Oceanside, and the boss not only was he an idiot, he was a miserable person. So that when I've spoken, like in Michigan State's journalism classes or high school classes, I've told them the most important thing is not where you're going to live or how much money you're going to make. It's to find a mentor you can learn from while you're on your way up. In many ways, that first experience for me, I think, stunted some of my growth. I was fortunate to still eventually make it to the San Diego Union Tribune, but it's still a sore spot in my life that I had to put up with this idiot when you're just a young kid out of college.
Great, so Tommy. I'll say this before I turn over to Mel for the last word. Mark Cuban hit a bullseye with his comment. Period. Bullseye. Bullseye. I'm saying it 3 times. Okay. Go ahead, Mel. You have the last word on the topic. We're going to do one more small topic for the station break. So go ahead, Mel. You have the last word on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just echo what Ben said and what Marvin said. We live in a microwave generation. All these kids now, man, they want something yesterday. They don't want it tomorrow. They want it yesterday. They got to have it right now, immediately. And my grandfather used to always tell us when we were kids, they said, you got the same brain as the president. You got the same gray matter in between your ears as the president. All you got to do is develop it. So, I mean, you have to develop your mind. I mean, my dad, I told him I wanted to go to school and I wanted to major in theater. He said, no, son. No. He said, you want to major in liberal arts because you want to be able to learn, decipher who's lying to you and who's telling you the truth. You want to major in liberal arts. You're not going to major in theater. That's not going to happen. I figured I'd, do theater like Will Chamberlain, Jim Brown, man. And, I play my little football, go to UCLA, win the Heisman Trophy, play football for a few years like OJ. And then, go on off to Hollywood. Well, that was my plan. That wasn't his plan. So, yeah, you got to develop your mind. That's the most important tool that you have. And that's going to carry you a lot further than anything else.
Great stuff. All right. One more topic I want to get to before we go to a station break. And that's this. We're going to talk about the notable moments under Pat Fitzgerald for Northwestern. This is what Michigan State has to look forward to. He had 11 bowl appearances, 2 Big Ten West titles, 3 10-win season, most in Northwestern history. All right, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about the hire of Pat Fitzgerald up at Michigan State? His track record at Northwestern was outstanding. I understand it was let go because of the hazing situation with Michigan State. Figures time has passed. Now you have the hire to work with. Some thoughts about Pat Fitzgerald, Jeremy.
Well, Pat Fitzgerald got to live the dream of anybody that was going to coach football. He coached for his alma mater. Let's not forget he was a legendary Northwestern player. So he was there, and whether he had knowledge or not of the hazing stuff, or if he was involved or not, and I don't even care. Because guess what? As the head coach, you're responsible if your players are doing that. You're supposed to know what they're doing, and that's on him. I think he may be a good coach for Michigan State. I'm worried about who leaves Michigan State because of the coach that was just fired, that was happy with the coach that was there, because there was some of the players that was kind of playing good that he recruited. So there's a chance that those players may transfer out.
Okay, Candy.
Fitzgerald, 109 overall wins and 64 Big Ten conference wins are both school records. In 13 seasons, Fitzgerald has coached 9 winning teams and one that finished the season at 500. So he led the Wildcats to 10 bowl games in 13 seasons. That's pretty impressive. I mean, and we're talking about at a school that plays in the Big Ten, obviously against the big boys, Michigan, the Ohio State. Like, there are some big schools in there. So he did a very admirable job. Kudos. Do I wish him a lot of success? Well, because I'm a fan of a different team in the Big Ten. He can have all the success as long as it's not at my team's expense. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, Marvin.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Pat Fitzgerald, man. We played against him in the Rose Bowl in '96. He was the Mike backer for Northwestern, and as Candy read off, I mean, this guy, for a program that doesn't emphasize football the way their competition does, it's remarkable that this guy had a winning record, in the Big Ten for so many years. And it's unfortunate what happened with the hazing situation. I think he got a raw deal with that, but I have no doubt that they got a good hire here. I think he'll do a great job. I think this guy I think he misses football. I think he has a lot to show, and I wish him well.
Ben?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Pat Fitzgerald was before my time, man, but he was a big-time player. I think when I think about Pat Fitzgerald, he reminds me a lot of Coach Spurrier, just without the national championships and the conference championships. Because, like everybody was saying, when you get to coach at the school, I mean, he was a great player. He wasn't good; he was great when he was at Northwestern. I mean, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and like I said, for Northwestern to have any level of success, the way he was able to do it, when you talk about the teams he had to play year in and year out. He did about as much as a coach could do. Now, we'll see what happens with Michigan State, but he's got to be proud. Whoever has to follow in his footsteps got some big shoes to fill, too. Everybody's not going to win a conference title. Everybody's not going to win the national championship, but we don't judge everybody on the same barometer. For what he was asked to do at Northwestern, he did it and then some. As far as like the allegations that he did, I mean, I know he got a settlement with the whole, but I do agree. When you are the head coach, you're supposed to know what every single one of your players are doing. I don't know. It's not good enough. That's not going to work. So, but I am wishing him well going to Michigan State. And like I said, to be able to coach at your alma mater and to have success, that's the thing. Certain players going to get a chance to do it. Are you successful at doing it? He was very successful at doing it. And a big reason why UCLA got a new head coach now is because they lost to Northwestern. That's a big reason why they got a new one now, which I think they got. Wait a minute, I think UCLA. Y'all got who y'all got, Mayor? Y'all got the old head coach from
James Madison.
James, who? So James Madison is the college football player. Yeah.
Boy,
we're gonna find out real quick when they play Oregon what they look like, because it's about the same kind of athletes. I'll be honest with you, it's about the same kind of athletes at James Madison right now and UCLA right now. So they're going up against Oregon. We're gonna see what kind of.
Ain't nobody scared of Oregon. Ain't nobody scared of Oregon. If you take Phil Knight and Nike out of Oregon, this great tradition of Oregon. Stop it.
You can't. I mean, when I played, that wasn't a problem. Oregon. I mean, that was a pad your stats game. But now it's a whole different ball game. Now you can't take away the money. The money's there.
I'm not taking away the money, Mel, but see, you guys don't have the kind of stuff I have to deal with on X. These fans talk a lot of trash to me, right? And they don't think I know who they really are. And I'd be like, who are you? Like, sir, I'm an Oregon fan. Dan Lanning for life. I'm like, sir, stop it. Come on.
I mean, Chip Kelly put them on the map. I mean, let's be for real. I mean, Chip Kelly put Oregon on the map with that fast offense.
Hey Ben, do you realize what you're doing right now? You're feeding this two-headed monster that I created on Saturday.
No, look. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about Mel and Marvin that I appreciate. Right, Mel, come on here. I don't know if Mel talked to the missus. He's like, Daddy, what you about to do? I'm about to go on here. I'm about to deal with Marvin for about 2 hours or whatever. So, but let me. That's what makes it beautiful, though. There is nothing that said respect more to let you know. Look, I'm gonna say something to him every single day. You bring a Georgia person on here, I'm gonna lose my train of thought too. I'm not gonna stay on topic. I'm trying to come. I don't care if Georgia wins, and I hope they don't. I don't care. So to you Georgia fans out there saying, well, Ben, what has Florida done lately? We ain't done nothing. I don't care. Y'all puppies to me. I don't care. I am talking trash to Georgia fans. And I respect.
Let me say this. I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair for you to put that Northwestern loss on the firing of the coach. You said they lost to a lot of teams. They lost to a lot of teams this year.
The coach was already fired before the Northwestern game.
Hey, Ben,
to the firing. No, I'm just saying. Why put it on them? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of losses.
Listen, Florida lost to USF. Let me tell you something. Florida lost to USF. I'm in no position to be talking trash. And Florida State, the fact
Marvin,
that Florida State declined
while you can, brother. I mean, look at Riley. He's supposed to be the savior. What has he done? You guys gave him a house, a plane,
undefeated at home,
big old car. I mean, what has he done? Yeah, okay, you beat us. Woohoo! Who else? I mean, a lot of people did, like you said, right?
Hey, Ben, I'll tell you one thing about you. Here's what I've noticed in the time I've worked with you. Ben has a brand, BRAND. I love everything you do, the way you interact, and the manners that you do. You are, in my opinion, the Mercedes-Benz when it comes to the brand. Whatever comes out of your mouth is awesome. Candy will have a field day coming up with shorts because of you alone, let alone drag that signature ahead of you in here. And that makes it even more fun for them all to look at the shorter version of it. So, Ben, I'm proud of you. I love Marvin. I love Mel. Tommy's my longtime buddy. Jeremy's my pupil. And Candy's my everything. So it is what it is. That's what makes the shows unbelievable. Ben, all I can say, brother, is keep it up. So now,
man, I'm on here with the best. I'm on here with the best.
Well, so are we. So am I. You know, you guys are on this crew, and I'm just enjoying the entertainment, watching you guys go back and forth. I guarantee on this Inside the Picture, I'm not losing my voice over this show. I get to watch it. I have a front row seat to this. All I got to do is executive produce and not screw it up. Awesome stuff, as Dick Vitale would say. Okay, Ben, one last thing as we go ahead. Final thoughts on Northwestern, okay, and Michigan State, okay? Do you like the hire at Michigan State with Northwestern? Yes or no?
Do I like that? Yeah, I like the hire. I mean, we'll see what he does. I think Michigan State has gone through a lot, but yeah, I like the hire.
What's that?
Did you hear me?
He said he likes it. He said he likes it.
Yeah, I like it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Ben.
I heard him.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
You can't hear us? Uh-oh. There he goes.
Uh-oh.
Loading.
Into the Twilight Zone.
I'll jump in here and continue the discussion. You know, Pat Fitzgerald won 2 Big Ten West titles at Northwestern. And I brought that up before one of our earlier shows when I was talking about Nebraska is not that good anymore, that Northwestern has been better than them in the Big Ten West. And both years, Northwestern played Ohio State, so they lost. But I know at least one of those years they were ahead at one point in the game. Pat Fitzgerald has hit the ground running at Michigan State. He spent a lot of time, those 3 seasons he missed, spent a lot of time studying about the changing landscape of college football. They had a press conference on Tuesday afternoon, a week ago today when he was introduced. And that night, the Spartans beat Iowa at the President's Center, and he got the crowd so worked up when he got that microphone that Tom Izzo joked later after the game that he had the crowd so worked up his players couldn't hear him in the huddle. And then the next night, or Friday night, he was at the Michigan State hockey game, and because hockey's a big-time sport, and Michigan State's ranked number 1. He had on a Michigan State hockey sweater. He's down with the students, pounding on the glass like a scene out of Seinfeld. And so he's hit the ground running. He kept all of their recruits. There were 18 guys that were committed. 16 of them signed because he was able to talk to them. And so that's pretty amazing for a new coach. The two that haven't signed yet are said they're going to wait to February. They didn't. It's not like they signed with somebody else. He's not only always been a good coach, he's rejuvenated, and now he's got far more resources and ability to recruit more athletes than he did at Northwestern.
Okay, so now that we're back, we had a little technical problem on our end. So, Ben, obviously you like to hire over with Michigan State with Pat Fitzgerald, yes or no?
Yeah, he said yes.
Okay, all right. Tommy, obviously you summarized it up pretty well. You like to hire as well? Okay, great. All right, let's move on. Okay, I don't know if Ben was having a few technical problems. He says he's got to be off by 10 o'clock, no problem. We'll make sure that everything is in there. All right, with that said, we'll move on to a station break real quick, Candy.
Well, I didn't get a chance to talk about it.
All right, go ahead.
Mel, I think it's a great hire. I know Tom is real excited about it. He's a Midwestern guy, so he's that this is perfect for him. I thought about him from UCLA. That's one of the names I thought about for UCLA, but that would have been difficult for him. He's a Midwestern guy. He coming out there would have been a little bit different. But I think what's interesting, you talk about the hazing thing. I mean, I think America's got to get over themselves. I mean, are we more concerned about college football? I mean, college football coaches are held to a higher standard than the highest job in the land. I mean, Art Briles can't get a job, and he's an outstanding coach. Pat Fitzgerald, he's going through what he's going through. It seems like when a coach makes a mistake and has like this, they're ostracized forever. But yet the man who holds the highest position in the land, has 34 felonies against him and has sexual conduct claim against him as well that he was found liable for. But yet nobody says anything about it. I don't understand that. And they want to hold a coach to a higher standard. So I think America's really got to get over themselves, to be honest with you. I mean, hey, the guy deserves a second chance. If the guy holding the highest position in the land can get a second chance, then these coaches definitely deserve a second chance.
Okay, you know what? I only have Ben until 10, so I'm going to ask him this question real quick. Okay, Ben, since it's a Florida question. Steve Spurrier takes a shot at FSU. They've got some issues up there. They've got a coach they can't get rid of because they don't have the money to let him go. So that's where they're at. Fortunately, we had enough money to pay off our guy. What are your thoughts about this, Ben?
I love it. I love it because Coach Spurrier is still showing why he was a media darling when he plays, and he's showing you why he still can't stand Florida State. And he's not lying. He's not. It would be one thing. It's a joke, but it's also true. If they could afford $54 million, right, Mike Norvell is gone. Right. Because once again, I know Florida won 4 games this year. You know how many games Florida State has won? In 2023, they went undefeated. They won the ACC, and they was the 5th team out. They played Georgia and got boat raced. Since then, in 2024 and 2025, since going undefeated, they have won 7 games. They won 2 in 2024. They won 5 in 2025. So, Coach Spurrier, yes, he don't like Florida State. He respects them, but he don't like them. And with all these coaches getting fired, you tell me a coach that can go undefeated 2 years ago and win 7 games since and keep his job. Right. 54. I don't know how you negotiate it. When people say, man, what you want your son to grow up to be? I don't want to be a football player. I want him to be a college football coach where they pay you to leave. They pay you to leave. Sometimes they pay you handsomely. So, hey, what do the troops want to be? Our next generation of troops, we want to be college football coaches, head college football coaches. Because don't judge me on the national championship winners. I want to be a Pat Fitzgerald. Judge me on my success at the school I'm at. Ain't but one team gonna win the natty. But yeah, Coach Spurrier, he was just speaking facts. So to all the Florida State fans out there that say, Ben, what has Florida done lately? They kept y'all. Well, we kept y'all from winning 6 games. The audacity of Florida State to turn down a bowl game. Y'all are in no position to say no, and you said no. You are not Notre Dame.
Right?
No, just saying.
All right. Well, you know what, Ben? I have to get out of here about 2 minutes. So while you have that 2-minute window, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday night Inside the Biz. Great work tonight, Ben. Go ahead.
At Ben Incubator for on most social media outlets. I'm just enjoying myself. It's a pleasure to be, when you talk about being a former player, you talk about what is going to be something you're going to do next in life, to be able to have these platforms to come on with y'all, fine gentlemen, and the Mercedes-Benz, Miss Candy. I'm sorry, the Rolls Royce. Mercedes-Benz. What am I saying? Rolls Royce. Sorry, Miss Candy. And it's humbling because I'm doing the best I can with what I know how to do. I wear these big hats because I can't afford Cam Newton's hats. Well, I'm not paying for it. I'm not paying $2,500 for no hat. If you see me with a Cam Newton hat, either I stole it from him or it fell off the truck. I'm not paying $2,500 for no hat. That's not happening in the Troop household. So, but I'm gonna keep enjoying it. Mel and Marvin, y'all are the greatest, man. Never stop being y'all. I could come on here and just listen to you. I like Marvin's gonna come on and say, how's everybody doing? Is that a brewing? And then Mel, like, we starting early? Because I'm ready. I'm ready. I love it. I love it. It keeps the UCLA SC rivalry is not appreciated like it should. If it's up to people like myself, I'm gonna make sure people, if we gotta watch Oregon State, if we got to watch games like that, come on, man. Give me the SC UCLA battle. Let's do it.
Well, Ben, let me tell you this before you roll. I'm proud that we're working together. That's all I can tell you.
I mean, the pleasure's all mine. I do my best to make it easy to work with me because I'm a jack of jack of all trades, master of none. I'm only here to do my job and have fun doing it. Hopefully, you have fun doing it with me.
I got news for you. We enjoy having you on the show. Jeremy certainly loves it when you're on as well. And of course, everybody that associated with you, Ben, Troop is great. I know you and I are going to be working together on a book giveaway at some point when we hit our milestones as well. So that's something that people should stay tuned as we get closer to hitting our million. So, Ben, glad to have you on. Look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. And meanwhile, great work tonight, my friend. Thank you very much.
Okay?
Yep. Be safe,
All
Ben.
right, so what's that?
No, I was telling him to be safe.
Okay, so let me go ahead and turn it around with everybody else, and then we're just going to roll, and we'll just go ahead with one station break at the very end. I want to make sure we get to everything that we talked about tonight. Okay, with that said, we talked about Steve Spurrier. Jeremy, go ahead. What are your thoughts about the fact that Spurrier took a shot at FSU?
Why wouldn't he? I mean, like he said, he was a former Florida coach. He's going to take the shots when he can. And he's absolutely right. If they can afford to get rid of him, they will. That's the nature of the beast in the NCAA.
Okay.
The question is, can they?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'll get to that in a moment. That's a subtopic. Go ahead, Candy.
I've said it and said it time again. If you can't afford to get rid of your coach, and if you don't know who's going to be better, why are you trying to get rid of him? I get Steve talking about that because that's true. I mean, not many colleges can overcome a $54 million contract. And then, because remember, not only do they have to pay him, but if they're going to bring somebody else in, they got to bring somebody else in above that as well. So you're paying double that at least. And then, I'm sorry, but all these schools that have declined bowl games, it's just sad. And I know part of it is timing. I know part of it is there's a lot of different factors. And I think the NC2A needs to rethink their calendar very seriously because a lot of them are going to, are declining them. And that's sad. That's sad because I think it's a platform that these kids can use to get seen and noticed by other talent and people that don't normally necessarily get to see him play.
Okay, well, I'll say this before I turn over to Mel, and I'm going to agree with Ben. Florida State at 5-7 should not have declined that bowl opportunity. They're not in a position to decline anything. And I'm going to get to Florida State and continue this theme in a moment. Mel, some thoughts about what Spurrier said to the Florida State Seminoles.
So if Florida State could have found 2 or 3 people to write the check, they probably would have done it. I think it's good that they were not able to afford it. To give this guy, I think the turnover in college football, there's just too much turnover in college football. What happened to, coaches, being mentors, leaders, helping develop young men. He needs an opportunity to be able to do that. I mean, just a few years ago, I mean, they went undefeated. Quarterback got hurt and they got left out of the championship. And then, things have just gone kind of awry since then. I think that it's good that they didn't have that opportunity. Let's see what happens in 2026, see if things change. But I know, it's easy to fire somebody with somebody else's money. It's easy, to spend somebody else's money, because that's all these guys are doing. They're spending somebody else's money. It's easy to do that. He couldn't find anybody to pony up the money. I don't know. I guess there's some big alumni in some of these organizations and some of these schools that feel good about saying, yeah, I wrote the check to fire so-and-so. What's that? That's the easiest thing to do is hire and fire. That's the easiest thing to do. My dad always said, man, you want to hire, train, and retain. So they need to, train this guy up, retain him, and try to see what see what he can become. Give him an opportunity to succeed. Give him everything that he needs. Give him all the tools that he needs to be able to succeed. And let's see what happens.
Marvin.
Yeah, I mean, listen. At the end of the day, the Florida State head coach, he had a good run at Memphis, and then at Florida State, they went undefeated with when their quarterback got hurt, and obviously they missed the playoffs. But I think it's really a situation where this guy peaked, and the last 2 years where you've had NIL and transfer portal, and you've had top 25 classes, you've won 7 games in 2 years.
Right.
That's a horrible investment for Florida State. They have a really bad deal with this guy. Mel is right. They absolutely would cut that check if they could and move on, because you don't have in the day and age where you can transform your roster. You see Indiana, what they did in 1 year, and then they came back the second year. You know what I'm saying? Now that's an anomaly, I think, but still you've seen it. Okay. So, to win 7 games in 2 years is really unacceptable. And believe me, nobody in that administrative building wanted to keep that head coach.
Tommy?
Well, first I want to say Alabama losing to Florida State is the reason Alabama shouldn't have got into the playoffs. Right. Because that's a terrible loss. And if it was anybody other but Alabama was up in that situation, they wouldn't have gotten in. But the thing that stands out for me, Steve Spurrier is always a funny guy. This shows you how money has escalated out of control in college football, because it was in the late 90s when Florida State started to get in trouble for giving players money and clothes and stuff. And Spurrier called Florida State Free Shoes University, FSU. So we were talking about shoes back then. Right. Now we're talking about multi-million-dollar buyouts for a coach.
Yeah.
So overall, it's a pretty sad. Steve Spurrier, good once again, is coming up with a good line, but it's a pretty sad commentary on college football overall.
All right, so let's continue the Mike Norvell story. Obviously, we know that in the last 2 years it has been a disappointing couple seasons. When I started tracking this story, and this is when I started tracking the story until we bring it to a head tonight. He was actually 5-14 in the last 9 games, with 7-21 without Jordan Travis, and the estimated college. And obviously, he was eliminated from college football playoff contention. Then again, this is when I first started tracking. Now they're actually going to make 10 to 15 million this year from the ACC's media restructuring. Obviously, there's a reason for fire, knowing that FSU is supposed to get 10 to 15 million from the ACC's media restructuring. There was a lawsuit involved between Clemson and Florida State. Now look at the Florida State brand. Jeremy, we'll pick it up from there. We're tracking it for a while. Where do you see the Florida State situation based on where everything began in October to where we are a couple of months later?
I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, the coach has done some good things recruiting-wise, but it hasn't equaled wins on the field.
Right.
We've seen how good the recruiting class was ranked last year, but we've seen this before with lots of teams. And it really depends on chemistry. And that also goes down not only to the head coach, but the assistant coaches and the players themselves having to get along. What if it's like kids from the same neighborhood, but from rival gangs and that type of stuff? And you got that type of butting heads going on in the background in the locker room that nobody sees. You don't know, because unless you're in that locker room and see what's going on and what type of chemistry these players have, you're not going to know that type of thing.
Candy?
The 2024 season for FSU. They were 2-12, the team's worst record since 1974. After that disastrous season, FSU fired both the offensive and defensive coordinators. So now we're talking again where we rushed to judgment, but we fired them. So this is the first year under all three of them together. And as Mel has said, sometimes it takes time, and sometimes you have to teach these men that, yes, you're going to have to overcome adversity. So you learn lessons from seasons like this. And yes, obviously in today's NIL money, you want to have success, and you want to have success quickly. It doesn't always translate onto the field. Sometimes you need continuity, and to build continuity to have that success. So it'll be interesting to see how they do next year, I think.
No question. Mel?
Well, there was talk that FSU was talking through the back channels to Lane Kiffin. That's what they wanted. If they could have got Lane Kiffin, they would have fired their coach. So I guess somebody would have wrote the check for the right person to come in there. But Kurt Signetti makes it bad for everybody. He goes there. He makes it very, very difficult for an AD to look at his situation and be like, well, I know our program, Florida State, we know Florida State's a much better program, much easier to recruit, in a hotbed as far as talent is concerned. And then you're paying this guy this kind of money, you're getting these types of results, where he's up in Indiana where they've never done anything since the beginning of time. And, in the last 2 years, they've done what they've done. And this year here, they won the Big Ten, and they're their number one seed. And, they went from absolutely nothing to be in a program that, they're going to have to be dealt with for the foreseeable future, as long as Kurt Signetti is there. So that makes it very, very difficult. Puts a lot of people on the hot seat, makes a lot of coaches very, very uncomfortable when he's able to do what he does. But that just shows that, that Kurt Signetti, he runs his program. He's a man's man. He's a leader of men. That's his program. He's established the type of program that he wants there. They've established an identity. I don't think Florida State has established an identity. I don't think the head coach has come in there and really asserted himself and established the type of an identity and let people know that, hey, I'm in charge. This is the way we're going to do things. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, hit the portal. So, I think, Norvell's going to have to take a long look in the mirror, and he's going to have to come back and reinvent himself. And if he wants to keep that high paying job, but then again, like I think, like Ben said, I mean, they pay you so much money to leave. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, they know their money's guaranteed. If their money was not guaranteed, like NFL players, I think, maybe you might get some different results, but maybe he's feeling pressure. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't know what's inside of him. We know what he did at his other stops, but I don't know what's inside of him as far as wanting to be great, or he just wants to be paid. I don't know.
I think the biggest takeaways you have to get out of this is, number one, he's 7-21 without Jordan Travis, and the fact that FSU is getting $10 to $15 million from this year's ACC's media restructure, and that's the biggest takeaway. All right, Marvin, take it from there.
Yeah, in addition to Indiana, I mean, you look at Oklahoma. You look at A&M. These are programs that hired a new head coach within the last couple of years, and these teams are in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So again, in a day and age of the transfer portal where you're getting players every year, and you're signing a top 25 class, there's no excuse for this. I mean, I think my last take, I pretty much said it. You know what I'm saying? It's a situation where they're not getting a return on their investment. And, that this program is going down with Norvell. Again, Scott, you just said Jordan Travis, his greatest success at FSU was hitting it with Jordan Travis. After this guy was in college for 10 years already, in his last year, they went undefeated, then he gets hurt. What has he done since then? Who has he developed since then? What quarterback has he brought in since then? So, he brought in this kid from BC who, showed flashes. They came out there, they beat Alabama. Everybody said Florida State's back. No, that was fool's gold. So, no, he's in trouble. He's on the hot seat. I don't expect him there past next year.
Tommy?
Yeah, it's a difficult story to figure out. The guy won in Memphis. That's how he got the job at Florida State. He had the big year at Florida State that would have turned out differently if his quarterback didn't get hurt. But, if we look back, Florida State's program has been unstable for a while, even before he got there. Jimbo Fisher had lost it. They were losing. They weren't winning like they used to. Jimbo Fisher's fighting with fans, yelling at fans on the way off the field. So I don't know. Florida State's time may have come and gone.
Okay, we're going to go rapid fire on this next topic, and I mean rapid fire. Phil Phillips, who actually led, we're talking high school football for a moment. That's why I put it on here because it's such a big story. Who led Oneonta to the Class 2021 Class 4A state championship game, has been dismissed as the team's head football coach. There 8 years, he ended up winning 63 wins, 6 playoff trips, and he goes, quote unquote, he was surprised it didn't make any sense to him. Nothing bad has happened. Got caught coaching the heck out of people. Thought that's what they paid him to do. All right. Well, you know what? This is a high school story. I don't normally bring him on. Well, this is a coaching thing where he got fired being paid what he's doing. That's coaching guys hard. Jeremy, some thoughts.
And he's also been accused of you're talking about the high school coach in Wisconsin, right?
No, I'm talking about the one in Oneonta, New York.
Okay, because there was another big
No,
one.
Not related.
Okay.
So this guy is 63, wins 6 playoff trips, and obviously led Oneonta to the Class 2021 Class 4A state championship game. Then he was let go, and he was caught off guard because he was coaching these guys. Obviously, coaching the heck out of the guys. Jeremy, that's pretty much it. No, different thing.
So if it's a hard coaching thing, it depends on what type of hard coaching you're talking about.
Right.
Is he going against the state laws that were passed after the death of Corey Stringer in 2017 with the two-a-days and the bulls in the ring and the stuff like that? If he's doing that type of coaching, which is technically illegal, he may be facing charges as well.
Well, the main words here is this, and I know it's a very gray area, coaching the heck out of guys, okay, or people. That's all I'm going to say.
Cussing them out, Scott. That's all. He just cussing them out. You know what I mean?
That's what
that
all right. Save me, Marvin. Save me. Go ahead. Take over.
Listen, this generation is different, man. This generation is different. It is. You can't talk to these kids a certain way because their parents is raising them different. They're raising them soft. This is the timeout generation. They don't do ass whoopings, so they don't do butt whoopings. They don't, So to have a coach, not even a parent, not even a blood family, but have a coach, curse at the kid, that's inappropriate to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm a by any means necessary type of dude. I think that the coach is an extension of the teacher. I think between the parent and the teacher and the coach, you want to have some type of village mentality. And the coach may have a different role in that kid's life. You know what I'm saying? And you got a lot of single moms who are thankful for these coaches who coach these boys hard. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have that kind of presence. So I think there are a lot of ways to motivate kids. But at the end of the day, you talking about varsity kids, I really don't have a problem with him using a couple of 4-letter words. I don't have a problem with that to get these kids going.
Yeah, I like Eddie Prather's comment. Kids are softer than Sherman.
I don't know.
Paper. Yeah, I like that, Eddie. That was good. All right, Tommy.
Well, I don't know much about the story. Did the community come to his support?
Yes, they were there Monday night at a school board meeting. So yes.
Yeah, so he's a beloved coach.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's hard to comment because you don't know what it is. But in general, kids are very disrespectful of kids at schools.
Right.
And then the teachers have a tough time dealing with them and teaching the other kids. And then the parents come in and complain to the principal about the teacher being hard on their kid. So I don't know what to make of it, but I know kids are tough. Kids in schools are tough. A lot of brats in school that are not respectful.
Mel?
Well, I can tell you, my dad sent us to a Catholic school because of the discipline. He wanted that hard teaching, not only teaching but coaching. I mean, the nuns, they could get a hold of you. The brothers, the fathers, they could get a hold of you. We had a kid on our team whose dad was a former pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, and made him get on all fours, and literally, and I kid you not, literally had him get on all fours, bear crawling, while kicking him in his rear end. And I swear, and that's what we dealt with. Cuss me out. Absolutely. No, they put hands on us. So I don't know what they're doing over there. I think like Marvin said, I mean, a lot of these kids, man, I tell my kids all the time, man, they're soft as doctor's cotton. They couldn't deal with the stuff that we dealt with. But they're also emotional. There was no such thing as mental health when I was growing up. I mean, you just had to just deal with it. Put on your big boy pants and just deal with it. There was no such thing as mental health or anything like that back then growing up. And I dealt with a lot of stuff growing up in the neighborhood, in the area in which I grew up in. So I don't have a problem with hard coaching. I mean, I think a lot of these kids need that. They lack discipline because they're not getting it at home. And then when they get it somewhere else, they go back home, cry to their parents, and then their parents have a problem with it. And then that's how these things, start. I when we grew up, you could get a whooping at your neighbor's house. It didn't matter. Wherever you showed up, that's where they're going to deal with you. If it was in the middle of the mall, now you try to, you just try to yell at your kid at the mall, man. They're calling the police on you. There's some Karen there, and they're going to be calling the police. My mom carried a belt in her purse. So if we were cutting up, running through the clothes and all that kind of stuff, she was going to get us right there in the mall. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that one.
Well, the only thing I'll say about it, and a few more topics we're trying to get to, is this: it is generational. The kids just can't handle what coaches are offering today. I'm on the side of the coach in this particular situation. All right, a couple more rapid fire topics I want to get to, and I mean rapid fire as we're approaching 15 minutes left in the show. Chip Kelly says he's used load management for Ashton Jeanty to preserve his body for the rest of the season. Of course, we know he's no longer there. He was fired by the Raiders, but you get $6 million to leave. The Raiders fired senior offensive assistant Bob Bicknell, Kelly's right-hand man, following the 24-10 loss of the Browns. And, of course, now Chip Kelly made Jeanty change his stance. All right, rapid fire, Jeremy. What are your thoughts about Chip Kelly and overall what he did to the running back?
Oh, it was awful what he did to him. It's crazy because I just can't believe he did something like this after the way he failed with Philadelphia and everything else. And now he's doing this at college, running off LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson while he was there, So now he's running off another kid. This kid will probably transfer out.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Ashton Jeanty over with the Raiders. Okay, Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, no longer the offensive coordinator. Jeremy,
he's been fired a couple of weeks. I understand that, but he hasn't been good in the NFL. He was barely good in college since he left college.
No, I agree. You're 100% right. That's why he's out the door, but he's got $6 million in his pocket. Great stuff. Load management, Ashton Jeanty. You're on the verge of ruining a good running back, and they have to get that situation fixed. Candy?
Ashton Jeanty has 8 total touchdowns, but he averaged 3.6 yards per carry. The Raiders have not been a good team, so should they have done load management? I mean, did he have load management in college? I mean, it's not like this is his first year playing football at all. I mean, load management, I can't. Are we talking about the National Drama League? Are we talking NBA?
Yeah, right.
I mean, come on. No, you don't do load management. Not to this extent. Let him play.
Well, Mel, your running back was Jeanty had the right way. And I don't think that Chip Kelly's going to see another job in the NFL. I think this was a bad move. Mel, take it from there.
Yeah, Chip hasn't been very successful in the NFL. His stuff worked in college, but that stuff has not translated over into the NFL. With Ashton Jeanty, I mean, you leave this guy alone. With the load management, I mean, you should be trying to feed him the pill as much as possible. I mean, Bum Phillips didn't worry about load management with Earl Campbell. I mean, they called him the Houston Earlers because, I mean, he was the team. They kept feeding him, and you got to feed this guy. And the more you give him the ball, the more opportunities he has to break a play. And as far as his stance, he's got the same stance as Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs does the same thing, stand straight up, and it hasn't bothered him. Why would you mess with that? Leave the guy alone, man. It's worked for him. You know, leave him alone. I mean, you've never played the position, Chip. I mean, I know he was a quarterback, but he never played tailback or anything like that. Leave the guy alone. You know, plus he's short. You know, maybe he's trying to see over the lineman so he can, you know, see where he's trying to go. Read the defenses. Maybe that's why he's standing up high and not trying to hide behind the big offensive lineman. You know, leave the kid alone.
Okay, Marvin.
Yeah, I think Jeremy kind of alluded to it. You know, Chip Kelly never really adjusted from going from college to pro, and just what your approach is and how you deal with young men versus dealing with men. And there is a difference, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, you have to approach it differently. You talk to him differently and you respect him differently and you have different type of conversations to a degree. So, you know, that I think he failed in that. I think Mel's also right. You mean load management? This is a young stud. Right. You give that boy the ball as much as you can. He's in his first year in the NFL. At Boise State, he got the ball 50 times a game. He don't look. He's not wearing down. This is what you drafted him in the top 10 for. So, you know, I think there's a disconnect with Chip Kelly in these players. I think communication is everything, and it's shocking that a guy like Pete Carroll, with his energy, saw value in Chip Kelly and his approach. Right. I think they're opposite and it's different in so many ways. So it doesn't surprise him he's out. Yeah, and in this business, they like Ben said, they pay you to leave. $6 million, wow, per year. And that's, I don't know how many years is that. I don't know, but yeah.
It's 1 year with assistants. They only get that 1 year of the contract. It's the coordinators that their contract can be stretched out.
Gotcha.
You're still probably getting paid from UCLA.
Yeah, no, exactly. He reminds me of Willie Taggart. Wherever he goes, he gets a paycheck. I'll tell you, give me Willie Taggart's agent.
American way.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. All right, Tom, you got the last word on this before I finish this. The only thing I'll say about Chip Kelly, I find another occupation because the way your last many coaching stops, it's time for you to change occupation. Tommy, you can have the last word, and we'll try to get to one or two more topics. Go ahead, Tommy.
Chip Kelly's a bad guy, and he was always a bad guy. Even when he was on top of the world in Oregon, he's running some scheme with a recruiting guy down in Texas. He was always popping off to reporters for just simple little questions. And that's when he was winning. So if you look at his jobs, none of them ended well. So
right.
He's just a bad guy.
Yeah, he really is. Chip Kelly, find work somewhere else. Coaching has had enough of you. All right, rapid fire again. Abdul Carter was benched for the first drive of the game for falling asleep, missing a team meeting. Obviously, Brian Dable would have let it slide, but Mike Kafka was not having anything to do with it, Jeremy. What are your thoughts about good old Mr. Abdul Carter?
Whether he fell asleep or not is the question. They asked him about it. He said they're lying. They're just doing this or whatever. He evidently did something during the meeting where he wasn't paying attention, whether he had his head down looking at his phone, playing a game, whatever. He made a mistake, and he deserved what he got as far as I'm concerned. There's got to be the young guys coming out of college that are used to being a little bit more catered because they got their NIL money and got catered to. It's different in the NFL. You're there for a paycheck, and at those meetings, those team meetings are important.
Great stuff, Jeremy. Candy?
There has to be consequences for your actions when you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. If you fell asleep during a meeting, that's uncalled for, and you need to be held accountable. And that's part of the problem with today's society is too many people don't hold these kids accountable for their actions. So kudos to them for doing that. I hope he learns from the consequences here.
Well,
that's funny. We always fell asleep in the meetings, boy. We've been in the back row, head.
That's why y'all was losing all the games, man.
This wasn't at UCLA. This was at the Rams, and we went to the NFC Championship game. So we always, the running backs, man, we were always knocked out. Running backs, wide receivers, we were always, and the quarterbacks would be up there in the front. They were the only ones awake. Everybody else was asleep during those meetings. Man. Lights are off. That heat was up a little high. And, it was a long day. But yeah, I mean, you gotta hold these guys accountable. I thought it was he showed up late or something like that. I didn't know he fell asleep. I can't, that's the pot calling the kettle black. I really can't fault the guy if he fell asleep. I know every day I fell asleep. I mean, we'd hang out all night and say, I'll catch a nap in the meeting. So I don't know.
Yeah, one running back defending another. Okay, go figure. Okay, go ahead, Marvin.
I would have been terrified to fall asleep in a Mike Ditka meeting. I would have been out. Listen, in my only experience with him was as a rookie, but I had so much respect for him. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing that. With that said, players did. I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Hey, with these young boys, you got to keep them in line. You do. You got to keep them in line. These guys, they used to having money. They used to being treated a certain way. And it's the NFL. It's not college. So, there's a professional aspect to this that's, there's a standard at an even higher level. So, no, the team was right for getting on him for that.
All right, Tom, you have the last word. One thing we're going to do for the Sunday edition of Inside the Pigskin is this. Miami Hurricanes. Well, I know. I'm going to get to Tommy in a minute. I just want to preview Saturday. As we'll talk about the Miami Hurricanes defeating the Irish and Notre Dame declining the bowl bid. We'll get into more details. Tommy, you have the last word on this. So we're going to go rapid fire for the last three NFL topics, and everybody hopefully will have a chance to promote themselves. Go ahead, Tommy.
Well, it makes me think of the old Jimmy Johnson story when the Cowboys were big, and he cut a backup player who fell asleep in practice, or not in practice, in a meeting, and he was talking about accountability and all that, and got rid of him. And one of the reporters asked him, what if Troy Aikman fell asleep? And Jimmy Johnson said, well, I'd say, Troy, wake up. So just that's what it reminded of me of.
Yeah, different rules for different players.
This isn't the first Abdul Carter story. It makes you wonder where his focus is. And
this is the guy that wanted Lawrence Taylor's number.
Yeah. How long of a career is he going to have? He doesn't seem to have much focus.
He doesn't have very many sacks. I mean, it's been a rough year for him.
The only thing I'll say about this is this. I have to confess, when I was at the University of South Florida, I had a professor by the name of Colonel K who wrote 5 books. He caught me falling asleep because his lectures were so boring. He deliberately called on me to make sure I wouldn't fall asleep. Luckily, we only met once a week anyways, and I used to be inside of his conference room and ended up doing well with the guy. But I get it. But this guy was boring, but he wrote 5 books, the most intimidating professor I ever had. I rapid fire on a couple NFL topics. Everybody will have a chance to promote themselves. I wanted to make sure we got that in. We'll talk about the Canes and the Irish, Marvin and Mel and Candy and myself on Saturday. Tommy, obviously, you can come on anytime you want, but this is an early morning show. And Jeremy, obviously, you will bring it up at a later date as well. So with that said, rapid fire on the NFL topics. The Chiefs' 9-year run to division championship was over with their 6-7. They lost to Houston, Texas. Real quickly, Jeremy, your thoughts about the Chiefs' 9-year run being over?
Down with the Chiefs. The Red Kingdom is falling. Down with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, he's a great player. He's able to do a lot, but when the guys around him start failing, and they allow that defense to get on him the way that Texans defense did in the second half, it's going to make his life very hard.
The only thing I'll say is Travis Kelce. This isn't the way he want to retire, but evidently that's how it's going to turn out. Candy?
I would say this year more than most, you've seen more parity in the league, and you've seen any given Sunday, any given team win. Their team, who would have thought Carolina would be up where they are? Who would have thought the Patriots would have the record that they have? The Broncos have the record that they have. I think that, like I said, there's more parity. And, everybody's gunning for the Chiefs. That was one of the Chiefs and the Eagles. Those are the 2 teams that everybody's gunning for and everybody's playing their best at. So part of it is everybody's playing their best against the Chiefs.
Okay, Mel, rapid fire.
Yeah, it reminds me of that old Johnny Mathis song, Too Much, Too Little, Too Late. He said, yes, it's over. Call it a day. Sorry that it had to end this way. No reason to pretend we knew it had to end someday this way. All good things must come to an end, right?
I like that reference. Johnny Mathis, very good. All right, Marvin.
It's hard to win in this league. Hard to stay on. And they had a hell of a run. They did. But, it's super competitive, as Candy said. So They're done for now until they figure out how to rebuild that roster.
Tommy?
Yeah, dynasties come to an end. Steelers went through some tough times after their 4 Super Bowls. So that's just life in the NFL.
Next topic, Baltimore Ravens 6-7 under Lamar Jackson. Who would have imagined this? Jeremy, real quickly, what are your thoughts about Lamar Jackson?
It isn't just Lamar Jackson that's failing. That defense isn't stopping anybody is the bigger problem. Roquan Smith was given $100 million to go out there and be a statue letting running backs run by him. That's not a good look. So, it is what it is. When your rushing defense is ranked in the bottom 5, you're going to struggle to win games.
Candy?
They've had some injuries and stuff like that. That's not helped them. And again, more parity in the league this year.
Okay. Mel?
If you can't score points, you're going to have a difficult time as well. Baltimore is killing me. I mean, Lamar Jackson's my quarterback in fantasy, and he's killed me the last, since he came back from injury. He hasn't been healthy. The first part of the season, he was on fire. I'm just lighting it up. I mean, he's just lighting it up. Then since he came back from the injury, he just has not been the same. So, I mean, if you can't score points, if Lamar Jackson can't be Lamar Jackson, very difficult for Baltimore to win.
Marvin?
Yeah, in addition to Derrick Henry being a little bit of a roller coaster this year, as Jeremy said, that defense, also has been inconsistent. Their issue isn't Lamar Jackson big picture. This guy's a 2-time MVP. You don't win those on accident. They don't just give those away. He is who he is. I think the people around him are failing him the most.
As Janet said, what have you done for me lately?
Right.
I hear you.
There you go. All right, Tommy, you got the last word on this one. One more topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I guess they've had a lot of injuries. But, the other thing to think about, John Harbaugh has been there 17 years.
Right.
That's a long time. John Madden retired after 10 years, just 2 years after he won a Super Bowl. And he said that, it's just a long time. The team needs a different voice after that much time. Maybe that's what's going on in Baltimore.
All right, final topic, and then we'll get to the exit, okay? Daniel Jones, unfortunate Achilles season-ending injury. He was a feel-good story of the year. We'll talk about him, and, of course, now the Colts have added Phillip Rivers. Jeremy, make it quick. The thoughts about the Jones injury and Rivers comeback.
It's nice that Rivers gets to make a comeback, but he hasn't played in 5 years. We're not going to see much out of him. He's probably going to be a handoff quarterback for Indy right now until he gets back into shape. Daniel Jones, the resurgence of his career, except for the last couple of weeks, and I heard he was dealing with some sort of stress fracture, which led to this ligament problem with his Achilles. Why were they playing him? If you knew this was happening, they should have got on the phone and grabbed somebody like, I don't know, Derek Carr or any other body out there in the NFL that was riding the pine in the free agency.
All right, Candy, real quick.
Unfortunate injury for Daniel Jones. He was having a really good year. Phillip Rivers, let's see what he can do. You never know. 44 years old.
All right, about a minute and a half to go. Mel?
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I mean, there was never anything wrong with Dan Marino's right arm. I mean, his right arm was always good. We know Phillip Rivers, his right arm is good, but he can't move. This is ridiculous. I mean, Marvin and I can look good running around in underwear, but it's a whole different ball game when you put them pads on, man. It's a whole different ball game.
Okay, Marvin, we only have about a minute.
I agree with everything that Mel said, except for that underwear comment. I don't feel comfortable with that. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah,
you guys are ashamed of your bodies.
He was playing through that broken fibula, I guess, and had a special brace around it. Who knows? Maybe that contributed to this injury too. So, yeah, it's too bad.
All right, Jeremy, you got about a 10-second. What's your biggest place they can reach you?
Right here at the South Florida Tribune and the SouthFloridaTribune.com.
Beautiful. Mel?
All social media at Melfar Jr. and at MelfarSuperstarFoundation.org.
Marvin?
South Florida Tribune, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday?
Saturday.
Well,
Saturday. I mean, whatever you do with season 2. But all right, Tommy?
TomShanahan.report. Go to my website. I was on the Adam Gold Show here in Raleigh today talking about the Army-Navy game at the Raleigh Sports Club tomorrow for lunch. I'll be moderating with a former Army player and a former Navy player, talking about the greatest rivalry in college sports. And every time Dick Vitale gets on there and talks about North Carolina Duke basketball, the greatest rivalry, I send him a tweet on Twitter. I guess you've never been to the Army-Navy game.
All I'll say is I take every one of these people on this crew here with me, and obviously that's my book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle, and feel free to hit the red subscribe button. That does it for us here tonight on Inside the Big Ten. Marvin and I will be on with Candy tomorrow night, and as we get going, see you Saturday. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. Bye now.